Hi brothers and sisters, this is Tara. It's good to see you guys, or good to talk to you guys. Hope everyone's doing well. It's been a while since I've been on here and I apologize for that. I've had a lot of changes, positive ones, positive changes, but it's just been taking up so much of my time. And I'll, do some more videos on just kind of update you guys on, how things are going. But this particular video I wanted to talk to you about was a video of more signs that God has given me. And that's part of our relationship, is that He gives me signs and I follow them. I always follow His signs, and I've been doing that for years, and it's led me to where I am today. And I'm living a glorious life today. Not as gloriously as it could be if I was in heaven with Him, but for being on earth, it's a glorious life. Excuse me. So, let me start at the beginning. This is regarding moving out into the country, and I haven't gotten there yet, but I'm working on it. I'm on my way. So what happened was, we've been wanting to move out to the country for, gosh, the last 2 or 3 years. We've been talking about it, really wanting to get some land and just, get away from the city. And so last year, it was around summertime. We're my whole family in the house wants me to make this move sooner than later. They wanted to move that last summer, and I just felt in my spirit that it wasn't the right time. But I was getting a lot of pressure, and we had a next door neighbor, that I don't like to say it, but unfortunately the next door neighbor we had was not very neighborly, and was causing us problems. And my family was just getting very, very tired of it. And so one particular day, all summer long they've been trying to convince me to make this move. And I never really took it seriously because I just didn't feel it in my spirit that it was the right time. I knew it was coming soon, but it wasn't then. But I just didn't feel it. So I wasn't really taking it seriously. However, there was some things going on with the neighbor, and it was getting more intense. And then my family, I was having to hear from them constantly every day about getting away, getting out of the city, getting away from the neighbor, and just starting fresh out in the country and living that life we've dreamed of. And so one particular day my husband called me and he was very upset, and it was just kind of the last straw. And so, finally I was like, you know what? Okay, I will, even though I feel like it's not the right time yet, I'll go ahead and I'll start looking for properties. And so I did. That day, I started looking for properties, and I was going to put my house up for sale. I was very serious. This was the day that I actually took it seriously, and I started really considering it and looking for properties. And while I was doing that, I still kind of felt like I wasn't sure if this was the right time or not. And so of course, what I always try to do is I gave it my worries and concerns over to God. And I prayed to Him and I asked Him, Lord, please help me with this decision. I don't know. I want to move out to the country. I want what my family wants. And I know it's coming soon. I know it is because I feel it. However, I'm just not sure if this is the right time or not. But my family are tired of the city. They're tired of this neighbor, and they just want to get away. And so I told God I'm going to start looking. So I start looking for properties, and I'm about to list my house for sale. And I asked God, I said, God, if you don't want me to do this, if you don't want me to move yet, if it's not the right time, please give me a sign that I will notice right away and will understand it for what it is. So this was like kind of mid-morning, and I was at work. And so a few hours later, it was like, man, it was either 1 o'clock or it was 4 o'clock. It was one of those two times. I can't remember exactly, but those are the two times that keep popping into my head. But it was in the afternoon. And so suddenly I received a phone call, and I'm looking for properties, and I'm talking to my coworker about it, and I'm actively going to do this. And then I get a phone call from my husband all of a sudden in late afternoon. And he says, Tara, you're never going to believe this, And I said, what? And he said, the neighbor just put a for sale sign in their yard. They're moving. The neighbor that was giving us problems, that was making us rush to get out of here. I was, I just kind of got quiet because I instantly knew that this was a sign from God. I asked him to give me a sign. He knew I was taking this seriously and that I was going to move. And even though I felt that it wasn't the right time. And so I asked him to give me that confirmation, that sign. Give me a reason to stay, is what I asked him. And then a few hours later, I get a phone call saying that the next door neighbor has put a for sale sign in their yard, that they're moving. They were literally, they sold their house, I think, they got an offer on it within 2 days. They were gone within the last month. They were gone within a month, so roughly around 30 days. And I knew that was a sign from God that we needed to wait. It wasn't our time. Our time is coming soon, but it wasn't right then. And I told my family this. I said, this is the confirmation. I asked God for a sign and he gave it to me. So I'm going to follow him. I'm going to follow his instructions. And so we decided, collectively as a family, we decided to wait. And I'm so grateful that we did because it wasn't the right time. And so, yeah, that was our sign. And I love God so much. And I mean, he loves me so much that he really went out of his way to give me a sign. And he did. And of course, the last month that the neighbor was there, was super nice to us, because they were trying to sell their house. So, yeah, I don't know, they were super nice. But, I don't know. I just pray for them. I want to say they're good people, but there's some issues there, and I just pray to God that I pray to God that God can reach them and help them to find Him, to find His glory, to find His grace, and to repent of their sins. And I pray for them. I want nothing but the best for them. I want nothing for the best for all of you. You're all my brothers and sisters, and I love you guys so much, and I even love them. I love all my neighbors. I love all my neighbors. And all of you you're my neighbors, and I love you all, and I just wish the best for you. I know everyone has their hard times and goes through things, and I get it. I've had mine. But just trust in the Lord, trust in God, because He'll pull you through. He will. He'll never abandon you, ever. So back to my story, I apologize. So that's what happened last summer. So I didn't, end up moving. We ended up going ahead and staying at the house until it was time to leave. So I knew, for some reason, I don't know how, but I knew that 2021 was going to be the year that we make that move. I knew, and this was last summer that all this happened, and I kept telling my family it's not time yet, but it is coming soon. I can feel it. It's either going to be spring of next year, which is this year, 2021. I said it's either going to be spring or it's either going to be summer, but it's coming. And my family, it was very hard for them to be patient, but they did. They were patient and they waited. Thank you, God, for that. And we've been talking about here within the last month or so, about getting back out to the country again, getting some land, building our lands. And, I got a sister-in-law who wants to go out to the country as well. And so she's been pressuring me too. So we started actively looking at properties, and there wasn't a whole lot out there. In fact, we have a large family. We've got children. We needed like a 5-bedroom, 6-bedroom, preferably. So we needed a large family, but we also wanted at least 5 acres or more. And so, in my area where I live, a family of that size, 25 to 3,000 square feet on 5 acres or more, it's pricey. It's very, very pricey. And and right now, because of everything going on with COVID, We just went through a period there that there wasn't a whole lot of inventory. There wasn't a whole lot of houses on the market, and the ones that were on the market were way out of our price range, or they were houses that needed a lot of work and a lot of time, and it's something that we wouldn't necessarily have. Or they were just too small. Um, so, so I just what I did was throughout late winter and early spring, I would just actively look. I would actively look every day online and just see what pops up. Well, um, this one day, about I want to say it was not. It wasn't exactly a month ago. It was like 2 weeks ago to 2 to 3 weeks ago, probably closer to 3 weeks now. So I'll just say 3 weeks. So 3 weeks ago, I was looking online, looking for houses, and I actually came across a house that had, I don't know how I missed it. I don't know how I missed this house, but it had been on the market for like 22 days. I was looking on the market for houses every other day since last winter. And so I don't know how I missed it, but I did. I missed this one house. And so the first time I had seen it was 22 days after it had already been on the market. And so I looked at this house and I started looking at it, and I was at work and I was looking at pictures, and I was like, this is a really nice house. This is a gorgeous home, and it's got 6 bedrooms, and it's on over 5 acres, and it has a lake, and it just checked off all the boxes, everything that we were looking for. And it was the first house that checked off all the boxes that was within our price range. So I was just, however, I currently own my home in the city, and I always imagined that I would sell my home before I buy a new one. And so when I found this house, I still own my current home. I hadn't even put it up for sale yet. And so, I started thinking, I was like, man, even though this house would be great for us, I can't move forward with this right now. I've got to sell my house first. And so I kind of brushed it off, even though it was there in the back of my mind, and I went back to it a few times just looking at the pictures because it's a really pretty home. Well, one night my sister-in-law was over at the house. She comes over for dinner every week, her and her children, and she asked me if I had found any more houses, and because we've been looking for a while, so she asked me if I had found any houses, and I said, well, there is this one house that I found that I really like, and it's on 5 acres, but it's available now, and it's already been on the market for 22 days, and but I haven't sold my house yet. I haven't even listed it for sale. So, I didn't think I could really, pull this off. And she's like, well, let's just go look at it. Let's just go look at it, and just see what it's like, And we were a little worried about the distance because it's 25 minutes away. I wasn't too terribly worried about it because it takes me 20 minutes just to get across town. So 25 minutes was not a big deal to me. So what happened was she convinced me to go look at it. So we ended up going to look at this house that night, the night that she was over for dinner. We ended up going to the house and looking at it that night. We walked through the house. It was me, my husband, and my sister-in-law. We walked through the house. It was beautiful. The owners let us, it was very short notice. We're like, hey, can we go look at this house and just here in a little bit? And they did. They let us, and it was very short notice, but gratefully they allowed us to. And so we walked through the house, and it was perfect. It was a beautiful home, and it checked off all of our boxes, and man, I'm not gonna lie, I fell in love with this house. I fell in love with it because I felt like my family could be happy here, and it was so weird because whenever I was at the home, I felt so familiar to it. It was such a familiar home, and I literally would see visions of myself living there. The biggest vision I had was being right outside the back door, barbecuing, kids playing in the yard, and it just felt so right. So, we went home that night after we looked at the house, and we were talking about the house and what we saw and what our options were. And I just kind of came to the conclusion that it just wasn't going to work out, that I needed to focus on getting my house ready to list and getting it sold before committing to a home. And so I was going to back up. I was going to back off. And I went to bed that night thinking, nothing's going to come of this. It's fine. We're just, you know, get our priorities in line and do what needs to be done first. So I went to bed, and thinking that we weren't going to do anything. I was starting to brush it off at this point. The next morning I woke up and started thinking about the house. It came to my mind again, and it kept coming to my mind. Something was telling me not to ignore it. And then I started thinking, is this me, thinking this way because I fell in love with the home? Or is this me not being able to let go of this house and keep thinking about it constantly? Is it because God is trying to give me a message? And so, of course, like I always do when I need God to give me an answer, I asked him for a sign, and I've done other videos of where he's given me signs, and if you haven't seen those, you should check those out, because they're pretty, his signs are pretty awesome each and every time. So yeah, I asked him for another sign, and this time, and I've done this before, but this time I asked him for a very specific sign. I asked him one day, or the very next day when I woke up and I was still thinking about the house while I ended up going to work and still on my mind, and I can't get it off my mind, and I'm just very, my thoughts on this house just keep being very persistent, and I just can't let it go. Well, a little history real quick of what's happening now in my city. I don't know if your guys' markets are the same, but our market's pretty crazy right now. I mean, we've got houses that are being listed for sale and being sold with a contract on them within a day or two, maybe hours, and some of them are going for over the listing price. Things are going very quickly. There's not a whole lot out there right now, and what is out there, majority of it seems to be going very fast. So it's it's one of those things where if you see a house you like, the type of market we're in, if you see the house you like, you need to jump on it, or you're not going to make it. You're not going to get it, unless you're meant to get it. But then, if you're meant to get it, God will make sure you get that house. Trust me. So, I lost my train of thought there. I apologize. What was I saying? Okay. So sorry. So I went to work. And it was still on my mind, so I started praying to God, and I was going to give it to him, and all my concerns and questions, and I just told him to please answer me by giving me a sign. And I was very specific with my sign. I was sitting in my car. Yeah, it was like I think I was on lunch break. I was sitting in my car, and I was like, and I was talking to God like he's sitting right next to me in the car. Like, I'm talking out loud. People probably think I'm a little nutty if they see me sitting there talking to no one, but I do. That's how I talk to God a lot of the times. I'll talk to him like he's sitting right next to me, and I'll literally have a long conversation with him. And so that's what was happening. I was talking to him like he was right there, and I said, God, I need you to give me a sign if you want me to proceed with this house. I can't seem to let it go. It keeps popping up into my head, and I feel like maybe this might be a message from you. This might be a reward that you're trying to give me. I'm not quite sure why I can't let this house go, and I don't know if it's because I love it or if it's because you're trying to move me in this direction. So please give me a sign if you want me to put an offer in on this house right away. And he knows about the market. I told him about the market and how fast houses are going, and so I asked him, if you want me to put an offer in on this house, please give me a sign, and I'll do it. I'll put an offer in tonight if you give me the sign. And my sign was very specific. I asked him to sorry, I don't know what happened back there. I asked him to show me an apple, like an apple that you eat. I asked him to show me an apple, and so you know, but I initially wasn't going to ask him for that. I was literally sitting there in the car talking to him like he's sitting next to me, and I said, God, what should I do this time? Because I ask him for signs all the time. And I said, God, what should I do this time? What should I ask for? And for some reason, an apple popped into my head. And I said, no, let's not do an apple. That, I don't know how that would work out. Let's just not do an apple. What else should I do? And an apple kept popping into my head. Like, I'm sitting here trying to think of what can I ask him, and for some reason, an apple keeps popping into my mind. And so finally, I got the hint, and I was like, okay, God, I hear ya. Let's just do an apple. Well, that will be the sign. And so that was my that was going to be the confirmation if he showed me an apple. So I ended up going back into work, come back from break, and my coworker knows how I am and knows that I ask God for signs all the time, and I use different